this is Audrey Collins, and I'm doing the extra credit teaching for Bio 100 Seth Bybee's class. Okay. Okay. Thanks for coming to my extra credit lesson. Today we are talking about Punnett squares and genetics. Let me. Does this clicker work? Oh, okay. Introduction. So when you think about genetics, you kind of think about your DNA and everything. And so I want to start off with a question to get us into it is, have you ever wondered why some people in your family have the same hair or eye color while others don't? And what are your thoughts on this?
I have, all of my siblings have very different hair textures and colors, except for me and my younger brother. Which is very interesting.
Yeah. I also think it's weird because I know this boy, and he and all of his siblings look identical. And there's like 4 of them or 5 of them, something like that. But me and my siblings, none of us look similar at all. And I don't really feel like it makes sense because, no, we don't. We don't all look the same. But either way, I don't really understand why for some people it's like copy and paste, like they all look exactly like their parents. And some people it like doesn't at all. You know?
Yes. Yeah, neither of my parents have red hair. And so, for the longest time, thought they adopted a leprechaun. Turns out, I'm still related to them. Yeah. Yes, I like all those answers. I also have all siblings with red hair, so.
Really?
Intriguing. Very interesting, and I don't.
Oh yeah, doesn't your sister have curly hair too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, as, yeah, and
She's
so
like chemistry.
after this introduction, to help us understand this, we're going to go over some vocabulary. Oh, no, first, we're going to talk about how it relates to us. So how does this relate to us? We are made up of cells that contain chromosomes, which has our DNA. Each chromosome is one long DNA molecule, and a gene is a short region of the molecule, so there can be over 1,000 genes in our DNA. Can you think about some inherited traits you have? I think I have an example. Oh, no. But inherited traits can be like a widow's peak, or you have like freckles, or whatever. I don't know. Or if there's just any traits you can think of that you can see in your bloodline. Yes?
I have curly hair, and my mom does too. But I don't think her parents do. Would it be like inherited? Do you think? Who knows?
Yes, that'll be answered later on, but I can tell you it is inherited. Doesn't just come out of the blue.
Wow.
Okay, now we'll get into some vocabulary. All right. Okay, so some basic things of what is in our cell is a gene, allele, and chromosome, and like there's alleles on chromosomes and genes are on chromosomes, so it kind of has our makeup of it. So a gene, you can also read this with me, is a segment of DNA that carries the instructions for making a specific protein, which determines a trait. For example, a gene might control whether you have dimples or not. An allele is a very, yes,
I have
question?
dimples.
Wow.
Show us.
Show it to the camera. It's really interesting.
I used to, when I was younger, I'd see like TikToks and people like people like making dimples. But they're always like temporary, right? The one that
No,
because they like
it's like
damage
a
like the
stone.
tissue. Yeah, but like would that be passed on to their kids? Like if they do it themselves?
I don't think so. I don't think so because you're not changing your DNA, you're just changing your face. Just kind of like.
Is it like the same as pasta?
Yeah, and like if you dye your hair blonde and all your children have brown hair, you're not gonna pass it on. That's a good question.
That makes sense.
glad. Alright, I'll go to the next vocab, which is an allele, which is found on a chromosome. An allele is a variation of a gene. For instance, the gene for dimples can have two alleles, one for dimples, D, and one for no dimples, little d. And so that can be found in like a genotype, which we'll learn later on. And the last definition, a chromosome. Chromosomes are long, thread-like structures made of DNA and proteins. They carry genes, and humans typically have 23 pairs. For example, the gene for an earlobe, attachment, free, or attached, is located on one of your chromosomes, which is passed on from your parents. Alright, more vocab. So these are your traits that can be passed on through your genes. So a dominant trait, a trait that is expressed when at least one dominant allele is present. For example, like the last example that was on there, having dimples, big D is dominant over not having dimples, little d. And then a recessive trait is a trait that is only expressed when two recessive alleles are present. For example, you have no dimples if you have two little deals, little d's. Sorry, yes.
So it's more likely to have dimples than not?
Yes. Yeah, your percentage of, this was an example later on, but basically if one parent has dimples and their genotype is two, big D, and then your mom has dimples but it's big D, little d, you have like a 100% chance of having dimples. Yes.
What makes a gene dominant?
When, I don't know, there's just some that show through, like, later we'll learn on about Gregor Mendel's effects, and he learns about them and breeds it, and it's the one that normally shows up less, and you need, like, two of each. Yes?
Okay, I don't know if this is right, but I had never thought about that until it was brought up, but maybe it's like the ones that are more dominant are the ones that were like, I don't know, it's almost like an evolutionary like trait, and so it's like dimples, even though like, I don't know, we might not be able to like survive, it like makes you like more attractive maybe in a sense, and that could be like an evolutionary trait.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, there's lots of traits that we have, kind of like wisdom teeth, that we don't use anymore,
those.
so can you show that? Oh. We have one more slide of vocab. Oh, no, that's an example of dominant and recessive genes. So do any of you guys have these? I know,
She has freckles.
I have freckles.
I mean,
you guys have freckles.
Oh, we have freckles.
you have freckles?
See, and we don't have freckles, and that means we have recessive genotype, and you guys have.
So did nobody in your ancestry have
Yeah.
freckles?
So like,
How does it not?
I mean, I don't think either of my
dominant
parents
traits?
really has freckles, but
It
also,
could be like, I'm sure this will be discussed later on, but I'm sure if it's like two heterozygous, one could be. Anyway, never mind.
Yeah, yeah, there's
25% chance.
like my parents, I do have some siblings with freckles, so that must mean that their genotype has at least one recessive in it. But also there's a lot of complex whatever traits, and so it takes more than just one like factor in your chromosome. Like your eyes aren't just determined by, oh, that's blue. There's a lot of factors. Yeah. Some more vocabulary. So as you've probably heard me say, I said genotype. So genotype refers to the genetic makeup of an organism, specifically the combination of alleles it carries. For example, there's a homozygous dominant, which would be a big T, and a heterozygous, which would be big T, little t. One is dominant and one is recessive. So that gene can pass on the recessive or dominant trait. And then there's homozygous recessive, which would be little t, little t. And then a phenotype is what's shown from the genotype. So it's the observable expression of a trait determined by the genotype. For example, if you have big T, little t genotype, your phenotype is tall because the dominant allele T is expressed. Any questions? Sorry. Oh no. Okay, and then here's another example, which kind of goes into the Gregor Mendel experiment, what he's done. So it's kind of, I think this is, so there's big B, no purple. And then if you have heterozygous, it'll still be purple. And then when it's recessive, it'll be white. Does that make sense? Nice. And now speaking of him, here's a brief history. Does someone want to read this? Oh, Savannah? You can read it next time.
Gregor Mendel, often called the father of genetics, was an Austrian scientist and Augustine Breyer, born in 1822. He is best known for his groundbreaking experiments with pea plants conducted between 1856 and 1863. Mendel studied how traits like plant height, seed color, and flower position were passed from one generation to the next. Through meticulous observation and record keeping, he discovered the fundamental principles of inheritance, now known as Mendelian genetics.
Thanks. Thank you for reading. Okay. And so I have a video for you guys, kind of explaining what's happened, and we'll go over it again. So, I don't know how to play this.
These days, scientists know how you inherit characteristics from your parents. They're able to calculate probabilities of having a specific trait or getting a genetic disease according to the information they have from the parents and the family history. But how is this possible? To understand how traits pass from one living being to its descendants, we need to go back in time to the 19th century and a man named Gregor Mendel. Mendel was an Austrian monk and biologist who loved to work with plants. By breeding the pea plants he was growing in the monastery's garden, he discovered the principles that rule heredity. In one of the most classic examples, Mendel combined a purebred yellow-seeded plant with a purebred green-seeded plant, and he got only yellow seeds. He called the yellow color trait the dominant one, because it was expressed in all the new seeds. Then he let the new yellow-seeded hybrid plants self-fertilize, and in this second generation he got both yellow and green seeds, which meant that the green trait had been hidden by the dominant yellow. He called this hidden trait the recessive trait. From those results, Mendel inferred that each trait depends on a pair of factors, one of them coming from the mother and the other from the father. Now we know that these factors are called alleles and represent the different variations of a gene. Depending on which type of allele Mendel found in each seed, we can have what we call a homozygous pea, where both alleles are identical, and what we call a heterozygous pea, when the two alleles are different. This combination of alleles is known as genotype, and its result, being yellow or green, is called phenotype. To clearly visualize how alleles are distributed amongst descendants, we can use a diagram called the Punnett square. You just place the different alleles on both axes, and then you figure out the possible combinations. Let's look at Mendel's peas, for example. Let's write the dominant yellow allele as an uppercase Y, and the recessive green allele as a lowercase y. The uppercase Y always overpowers its lowercase friend, so the only time you get green babies is if you have two lowercase y's. In Mendel's first generation, the yellow homozygous pea mom will give each pea kid a yellow dominant allele, and the green homozygous pea dad will give a green recessive allele, so all the pea kids will be yellow heterozygous. Then, in the second generation, where the two heterozygous kids marry, their babies could have any of the three possible genotypes, showing the two possible phenotypes in a 3-to-1 proportion. But even peas have a lot of characteristics. For example, besides being yellow or green, peas may be round or wrinkled. So we could have all these possible combinations: round yellow peas, round green peas, wrinkled yellow peas, and wrinkled green peas. To calculate the proportions for each genotype and phenotype, we can use a Punnett square too. Of course, this will make it a little more complex. And lots of things are more complicated than peas, like, say, people. These days, scientists know a lot more about genetics and heredity, and there are many other ways in which some characteristics are inherited, but it all started with Mendel and his peas.
Okay. Now, to review answer questions about that idea, or do you feel like you understand the concept pretty well? We'll go over more in detail too. Perfect. So to go over a little bit what is talked about, and more of what he's like come up with and is known for. So he had his experiment, like it said in the video, where he determined dominant traits in pea plants, including the plant height, a yellow seed color, a smooth seed, a gray seed coat, full pod, green pod, and flower distribution along the system. So there's a lot of factors, and just how complicated this little plant is, humans are just so much more complicated. So this is a good basis to understand this concept. He came up with the law of segregation, which is each parent contributes one allele for a trait, which separates during gamete formation. And then the law of independence assortment. Traits are inherited independently of one another.
Wait, but aren't some traits like connected?
Mm-hmm.
And does that just like not go with the law of independent assortment? Like,
I think
break it?
it does depend, like in other times when you've studied like chromosomes or like the alleles, there's some where they are like connected when like the genes are like close to each other on the chromosome, and then when it like crosses over or combines, then like they go with each other. But there's a lot of complicated solutions. Okay. Okay. And so in the video I talked about a Punnett square, but just to go over how it works, you kind of just draw the grid based on like how much alleles you have. And so this one is a pretty simple one. You have a homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive, and then you just like bring it down, you combined it, and then you can also see the ratios, which you would see that they all are the same, and then the phenotype will also be all the same because they all are dominant. Does that make sense to everyone? So we're gonna do some practice.
Is that like if one parent had the dominant trait and one parent had the recessive trait, all the kids would have the dominant trait?
Mm-hmm. But they would all be carriers, so like their kids could have recessive traits. Which is why you see it pop up randomly in like family trees and pedigrees. Okay. Are there any other questions? Because we're going to do some practice soon. So, ready? Okay. Here is the instructions. Since there's 4 of you guys, you can all choose one to work on, or you can all work on it together and discuss it. So using what you've learned, and I can help you as well about Punnett squares, I want you to do dihybrid crosses. So with it, I want you to write the phenotype and the new genotype that's crossed over. So these are what the phenotypes will be. And then, yes.
Is the third one on there where it's short, so meant to be 2 little t's?
Yeah.
And the same with the small feet? That's meant to be.
Yeah,
It
there's
was
just
like-
like an autocorrect.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure. You showed us with just 2 different traits. How many do 4 traits?
Yes.
Correct box or
So is it gonna be like 16
Yeah.
boxes then?
16 boxes.
Yes. Well, it's like you put this on top and then this on the side. I can draw a set of one to show you guys. Yeah, 4 by 4. So you have 16 boxes in total. But that doesn't mean that they're all different. So you count them and then I'll have you make the ratio of the genotype, like crossing their offspring, like what's the ratio of having like 4 whatever and stuff. And so if you have paper you can do it, but if you don't, then you can also do it on the board and I can do it. So I'll hold this out.
Wait, are we each gonna pick a separate one to do? Because I wanna do the top one.
Yeah, you can all choose different ones.
Or do you want to do
I already called the top one.
You find
Spiky
one.
Mike has the top one. So
Carly?
Carly. I'm gonna do that one. Spiky Mike and.
I'll do
Okay. And here, I'll show you real quick. Setting it up with these. Oh, this is a bad marker. But you'll have like big T, big S, little s, and then big T, little t.
Hey, you're doing mine.
I'm just showing you how to set it up.
She's just
Yes.
setting it up.
Hey, Spiky Mike, maybe chill out.
And you just kind of do that, and then you combine them.
Wait, is the dominant one always gonna be in the front?
You're doing this wrong. Because are these supposed to be together, or is it supposed to be like? Well, if you go back to the video,
No, I think that's right. That looks right.
because it's supposed to be like the S's are together. You know? Oh no, you're right. Biology major.
Because it's like you do like.
I don't get it. I
It
think
would be like.
it's
Wait, so you would do like this one and this one
Oh, yeah, so
together,
it's
and
gonna
then this
be
one and this
this.
one, and all the different.
So I have to start over. You don't have to start over, you just have to try it different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Big
following
T,
what the professor was
So
doing.
these are all the possibilities
That's
that
not fair.
can come out.
You're not.
So you're gonna choose.
Why you
So guys, you're gonna choose the two of these together. So you're like, okay, so the only different possibilities of this is having a big T with that. And then for this one, you can have a big T, big S, and the next one you can have a little T.
Are
and
we
big
still doing
S.
this is the same amount of squares?
I mean,
Wait, I don't think I can do this. This is really hard. Is it not the same amount of squares? Is it only
Isn't it
4?
16?
it depends on what you have. So yours is gonna be 4, but this one is gonna be 16 boxes because both of them are heterozygous dominant, and so.
I don't get it.
Do you want to come up to the board and I can?
Yeah.
I'll help you with this one. This marker's really bad. All right. So this is yours that I've drawn out. Big T, big S. So you choose two of the whatever like alleles together. Like that. So then this you can combine them. You get big T, big T, big S, big S. Yeah?
Can you help me? I'll draw it
Hey,
out.
you work on this and I'll help Carly.
Okay, Michael.
What you say? Say it's my face.
Okay. So you're gonna wait, you're just the last one. Okay. So the possibilities would just look at that one, like parents genotype. Big T,
Done.
little T.
Here you go, teach. You didn't do all of them right.
I didn't.
Why'd you only have 4? Why'd you only have 4?
Because she only has 4 like possibilities.
Because these are homo.
Yeah.
These are homo.
So yours.
Michael.
Spiky right.
So yours possibilities
Sorry, I
for
fueled
first one
the
would be
fire.
big T, and little s, and little t, and little s. And then the other parent can be little t, big S, and it can be little t, little s. So yours is going to be similar to Michael's. So now I want you to combine it.
I still don't understand how you can have 16. Wait, so does mine only have 4 squares?
Yeah, so
All of them
where's
do,
the
right?
No, theirs have 16.
Where did you put the marker?
Oh, she dropped it on the ground. He dropped it.
Which ones have 4? Which ones have 4? Which ones have 16?
So it can be 16 because it's kind of like
Oh, but it just
what
repeats
Hannah
itself?
said. It's kind of like foiling, so it just repeats itself. So you're gonna combine these two, and then you're gonna
So
combine.
how would I write it not combined?
So you would do. So you look at it like this. So you're gonna use this T and do it with this S. And then you're gonna do this T with this S. And you'll do this T with this S.
Oh.
And then this T with this S. You know?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Perfect.
Wait, do you still not?
And then
No, I can get it.
With this, I probably should have erased yours, but I wanted you to do, write the ratio of like the genotypes
Okay.
of it.
And the phenotypes?
Yes, and the phenotypes. And remember, this is supposed to be a little t, it's supposed to be a little s.
There's like a 50% chance of being tall, I think.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, so yours is gonna be. Like this.
That's a little less.
Thank you. What? Yeah, so there's 100% are gonna be tall. Or 4 tall.
Right, because unicorns, little teeth. Nobody cares about
And then
little.
4 of them are gonna have big feet.
Which one means eat?
S. And this doesn't mean anything, I just chose these. Yeah. And then the genotype, you're gonna have a ratio of 1, 1, 1, 1, because these are all different genotypes.
Are the genes of being tall actually that simple?
No.
But something that.
Some things are, I think, definitely with humans, because we only have 23 chromosomes, and all of them hold so much DNA. If you read in your textbook, it's like what's wound up in the chromosome of the DNA, can go on for like miles. So there's just so much contained in it. So that's why there's so many factors.
So this only like really, really works well with like black and white kind of traits, like how like the color.
Yeah, kind of like back to the peas, just like shrivel and stuff, which is why it's so important that he learned it with that, because it was just so simple. You can understand. How are you guys doing? Oh, so good.
Did you do ratios? Did you do ratios? No.
I
All
did it
of them
for
are
her.
big feet and.
Excuse me. Anything I can help you with? Aww. Let's do it again. Okay. So how are you guys all feeling about that? This activity? And understanding it is. You guys did get the hard ones, but it all looks great.
So if we had done ours like with 16 like that one, would the ratios be the same as what we got? Is that
Yeah.
why you just want to do that before?
Yeah. It is sometimes easier to do the 4, at least for my brain. It's like, because then you have to like count the rest,
Yeah.
and then you like simplify it. But with this, obviously, using this Hannah did 8 boxes, while Ariana did 16. And as hey,
Do not try to
and
love it. I just don't know fancy stuff.
yeah, there's isn't there like the ratio one where it's like for when you have a heterozygous versus a heterozygous, it's like 9, 3, 3, 1 of the there's some rule, I can't remember. We can read it in our textbooks later.
We can report on it as our homework.
Yes, I like that very much. I say you did.
So, which of your parents
Thank
genes
you.
do that big up?
What did you just say? So I'd like you guys to pay attention. Why you like getting all so loud? Alright. thank you for participating. And hopefully this doesn't cause too much distress if you don't see any like genes that your parents have that you have. Hopefully you're not adopted. You don't know. I bet you're just stop there and say, hopefully you're not adopted. And I was like, whoa.
I have something to share.
Yeah.
When my sister was born, 2 of her toes were like merged together. So that's a pretty cool trait.
Wow.
Pretty cool. So
Wow,
we had
did
to
they see the
surgery
cut
to.
before?
There are cases where it's like that, or you have like another finger, but when you're a baby, they just, because you don't need it, they just surgically remove it. And so sometimes you don't even know that you have the trait till later.
Is that like a genetic mutation?
Yeah, it would be a mutation. And there's, we can learn this later on, but mutations can sometimes just be random or for the good or for the worse. And so, yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
Could the mutations be passed on?
I don't think so. Because it's like, if something's copied wrong in the DNA and then there's just like a mistake. So I'm sure you could, like, it could be a family thing to, you know, like have whatever your trait, or like your gene or your DNA not replicate properly, but I don't think it's like.
Well, isn't that where like survival of the fittest and like natural selection would come in? Because like if you had a gene mutation that like made you better able to survive or something, then it would
Yeah.
be passed on, right? And then
Yeah.
like kind of
Like those
perpetuates
dimples.
that.
Yeah,
Or
you're
isn't
right.
that like how like blue eyes started? I don't know if that really helps you live better though. But it was mutation,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like there are mutations and it's like for the better and like, you know, survival of the fittest, and like if you live longer then you'll reproduce more and then your children will have that mutation and then later it won't be recognized as a mutation and it'll just be like,
Trade.
yeah. Yes.
Is it not being lactose intolerant a mutation?
Yeah. I unfortunately am lactose intolerant. So.
Me too.
Really, Ryan?
Yeah.
Are you lactose intolerant? No.
Okay, Michael.
You know, that makes you like a mutant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You should have a
It's
mutant
kinda
in
like-
our class.
It also makes me the fittest.
Okay. Any other questions regarding that? Alright. So going beyond just the simple combinations of just like learning about Mendel's experiment with keys, there are different variables. So there's a codominance variable, which is a phenomenon in which 2 alleles, different versions of the same gene, are expressed to an equal degree with an organism. So this can be seen in like your blood type. It's like AB, A positive, A negative, and O. And then there's polygenic inheritance, which are traits influenced by multiple genes like skin color or height. So to answer your question, like height isn't that simple. There's many different genes that all work together with that. I'm not sorry, my computer's not.
So that's why like if like a tall person and a short person got married, their kid would like get like the tall trait or the short trait and be like kind of medium average or whatever, right? And same with like if like you have like somebody who's black marries somebody who's white, like the kid is like a mix.
Yeah, that's a good perspective on that. Alright. And so with this, since we're at BYU, I wanted to take a little spiritual take on this. And as you know, genes make up different people, and just all animals and all mammals and organisms, we all have different traits and everything. And so we don't fully define us, and maybe remember the scripture, 2 Nephi 26:33. Does someone want to read this for me? Yes? No, I'm.
For none of these iniquities. You can read it, Michael. It's important.
Either one of you guys can read it. You can read it together. We can all read it.
How about we switch off every word?
I can also just read it. Okay, I will read it. Okay. For none of these iniquities come of the Lord, for he doeth that which is good among the children of men, and he doeth nothing save it be plain unto the children of men, and he inviteth them all to come unto him and partake of his goodness. And he denieth none that come unto him, black and white, bond and free, male and female, and he remembereth that heathen, and all are like unto God, both Jew and Gentile. And so I just love this verse because, you know, we all should remember that we're all loved by him equally, and we're all like unto him, and there's nothing that can get in the way of us if we have, you know, an extra finger from a mutation, or just our genes have us have red hair, or we are a different skin color than someone else. And so it's always something good to remember. Does anyone have any thoughts on this they would like to share? Nice. Okay. So this is actually the end of the lesson, but are there any big questions you have, or if there's anything you want to look up together, like looking at whatever, like the blood type, or just researching like how something should work, if you're confused on anything? But yeah, I mean, when I was learning this, I found it very interesting. And I like learning about the genetics because it's kind of like makes sense in my math brain. When you all combined it together, and it is interesting to see how, like what we talked about at the beginning, how my parents look totally different, and I don't look like any of my siblings.
So with like the really like the kind of traits, where it's like being tall or being short, where like it's not like black and white, like it's not like one or the other. Is there a different way that you can like do a Punnett score for it, or is there like a different way that it like can represent that?
I think there's probably like a long process.
I think there's a way for you to like computer scan all the DNA in your body, and then they can try to see common genes that are like tall people have this trait or whatever, or like people with cancer have this trait, or just like things like that. But it's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very so much going into just, yeah, there are lots of factors. And then, kind of like what you can go in another like lesson is when we talk about dominant and recessive alleles, or whatever genes and everything we have. It's interesting to see like in your family when it comes up. It's like, because red hair is a recessive gene, and so out of my family, 3 of my siblings have red hair. So seeing that, like I know I carry that recessive gene, but then there's also other genes that we're not sure if we carry or not, and it'll just come up when we have kids, and when our kids have kids, and like all of that.
Is like something happening when like a trait skips a generation? Because like some traits won't they like just like common like skip generations?
Like twins.
Or red hair.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, wouldn't that just be the like
It's just like that
recessive
same
gene like
recession.
showing up
just-
again?
Yeah, like the recessive gene, like, I don't know, like maybe so in your family member, like it's just the dominant trait just like showed up more, but then you're all carriers, and then you can marry someone with a recessive trait. Like, obviously my mom carried the recessive trait, but she has like dark curly hair, and my dad had red hair, and so obviously she carried it at some point in her bloodline.
Do you know if any of her like relatives have red hair? Or does she not?
None of like her living relatives she knew like had red hair, but so it's kind of like that when like it's interesting to see later on. You're like, oh, I do carry that.
I don't know if you know this, but can you carry like more than one like recessive gene for a certain like trait? Like, could I have like recessive for, or I guess I would have maybe dominant for red, but then I would have like recessive, maybe I have like a recessive like brown hair gene because my dad has that, or could I also have like a recessive blonde? My mom, like,
Or
you know?
can she like
Like a
only
different-
have redhead?
Or can you only have like, well, not even that, but just like,
Can you only have two?
can you only have two for a certain trait?
I think you can definitely have more. I mean, kind of like, you know, the keys are a simple example, but humans are so much more like
Yeah.
complicated. So
Yeah.
I think you could have multiple traits connected to like an
Oh, that'd be an awful Punnett square.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do that one.
Not be enjoyable.
That's not true.
But yeah, any last questions or examples that you can see in your life after learning this of like traits that your family might have?
Does it do personality traits too? Could they be passed down that way? Because I feel like a lot of times you might see like a parent's personality in their kid.
Yeah.
Or is
I
that
don't
like
know,
that's a whole
behavioral.
nature versus
Yeah.
nurture? I'm not getting into that.
But I think there's like different, yes, like that stuff can be passed down.
Like I feel like the teachers may
Or like if you have like anxiety that like runs in the family, because that's like different.
Yeah, I know like mental health and addictions
Yeah.
and like diseases can be
Because those go into your,
passed down.
but I don't think like straight up personality.
Yeah. So always something more to
So that'll be your next lesson.
next lesson. See you guys there. Yeah, well thank you for coming to my lesson. This is it.
So good.
Thank you, teacher.
Let's get to
Wow.
Thank you, Miss Collins.